You've probably heard of the D-Day landings, the Battle of Midway or Stalingrad, but have you ever heard of the Battle of Imphal? This was Japan's grand plan to conquer India during World War II, a plan so ambitious, so audacious, that it was nicknamed the March on Delhi. And it turned into one of the most catastrophic military disasters in their history. Picture this, it's early 1944. The Japanese Empire is at the peak of its power. Having swept across Southeast Asia, only one major prize remains: India, the jewel in the crown of the British Empire. Lieutenant General Renya Mutaguchi, a man known for his incredible, some would say reckless ambition, is convinced he can pull it off. He believes his troops can march through the dense, unforgiving jungles of Burma, cross into India, and capture the strategic city of Imphal. His plan was called Operation Yugo, and it was bold to say the least. Mutaguchi's strategy relied on one critical and ultimately fatal assumption: speed. He believed his soldiers could travel light, overwhelm the British and Indian defenders quickly, and capture their supply depots before their own rations ran out. He famously told his men they would feast on the enemy's supplies. He called it the Genghis Khan strategy, living off the land and off the enemy. So in March 1944, over 85,000 Japanese soldiers plunged into the jungle. At first, the plan seemed to be working. They cut off roads, surrounded British and Indian positions, and pushed relentlessly towards Imphal. The situation for the Allied forces looked dire. The city of Imphal and the nearby garrison at Kohima were completely besieged. But the Allies, under the command of General William Slim, did something the Japanese didn't expect. They didn't retreat, they dug in, and even more critically, they had a secret weapon: air power. While the Japanese soldiers were trapped in the jungle, struggling to drag their artillery over mountains and across rivers, the Royal Air Force started a massive airlift. Day and night, planes flew into the besieged valley of Imphal, dropping everything from ammunition and food to reinforcements and medical supplies. They were supplying an entire army from the sky. Meanwhile, the Genghis Khan strategy was falling apart. The Allied supplies they were supposed to capture never materialized. The jungle offered nothing but leeches, mosquitoes, and disease. The monsoon rains arrived early, turning the jungle floor into a quagmire of mud. Japanese soldiers, starving and racked with malaria, dysentery, and typhus, started referring to the Imphal Road as the Skeleton Road. Their rations were gone. They were forced to eat jungle grass, snails, even their own pack animals. But soon there was nothing left. The fighting was brutal, especially at Kohima, where a small group of defenders held off an entire Japanese division in what's often called the Stalingrad of the East. The battle was fought at such close quarters that it was described as fighting hand-to-hand, tooth and nail. By July, the Japanese offensive had completely collapsed. The once proud army was in full retreat. But the retreat was even more horrific than the advance. Starving, sick, and demoralized soldiers staggered back through the mud-drenched jungle, pursued by Allied forces. Of the 85,000 soldiers who began the March on Delhi, over 55,000 became casualties. Most of them didn't die from bullets, but from starvation and disease. It was an almost unbelievable level of destruction, a complete and total failure. The Battle of Imphal wasn't just a defeat, it was a turning point. It shattered the myth of Japanese invincibility and marked the beginning of the end for their empire in Asia. Historians have since voted it as Britain's greatest ever battle, even surpassing Waterloo. It was a brutal, desperate struggle in the forgotten jungles of the India-Burma border, where an audacious gamble met the harsh reality of logistics, and where the March on Delhi ended in a graveyard.